A couple of the most bet teams in the wildcard round did not cash, so the books had nice wins, but we don't want that, so you need to pay attention to where the action is. That's why I'm here with our guy, Ben Fox, to break down all the betting action on the NFL Divisional Round. Ben, let's go in order here and start with Houston at Baltimore. Houston with a huge dub over Cleveland, now 9.5-point road dogs at Baltimore, but the Ravens are the elite of the conference. Bettors on the chalk here, or are bettors turning into Texans believers?
Yeah, so bettors are definitely on the Texans right now. The public all over the Texans plus 9.5. We've seen this total come down a bit, opened around 46, now 43.5 at sportsbooks. But some respected money on the Texans plus 9.5, and a lot of public money as well on the Texans. About 70% of the bets at several sportsbooks on Houston. Obviously, seeing CJ Stroud look so great against that Browns defense last week. But this potentially is a different animal on the road against Lamar Jackson and the number one seed. So interesting to see bettors backing that. Probably some recency bias since we haven't seen the Ravens with their full team in a couple weeks. And we just saw the Texans look great last weekend.
Packers at 49ers in the second game on Saturday. This one has seen a bit of movement, 10 to 9.5 for a few days. Now this morning I saw some 9s and now back to 9.5 as we sit here. Green Bay with a real statement at the Cowboys last week. As a Niners fan, I'm cautiously optimistic about this one, but that Jordan Love performance and really the Packers as a whole was really eye-opening. But what are bettors saying about this?
So we've seen a bit of a similar take. Bettors backing the Packers here at plus 9.5, but it is a lot more evenly split than the Texans-Ravens game. The money is a lot closer to 50-50 and maybe 60 to 65% of the bets, as opposed to close to 70% that were on the Texans are on the Packers. So again, bettors still backing the underdog. I think it's always important here to remember that sometimes we forget there's a reason the teams like the 49ers got that bye and are the number one seed. They are clearly the best team. I think as a 49ers fan, you should feel confident that they come out of here with a win. Whether or not they cover, that's another question. But I think, again, people looking back at last weekend, seeing how dominant the Packers were against the Cowboys on the road, and thinking maybe potentially they can do it again this week in San Francisco.
On to Sunday, Bucs heading north to Detroit to face the Lions. Tampa Bay, another strong performance as they beat Philly last weekend. This one has bounced around between 6 and 6.5 all week. So how is this one shaping up at the betting window?
Yeah, this opened Lions -6, pretty much Lions -6.5 across the board now. I think it's interesting to note the Bucs have been very good as an underdog this season, 9-3 against the spread as an underdog, including 8-1 on the road. So it's a position they've been in a lot. It's a position they've been successful in a lot. Obviously, last week as a home dog, winning outright against the Eagles. This again, the Lions have been a public darling all year, and it hasn't really stopped right now. The bet's a little bit over 50-50, more shaded towards the Lions. The money certainly, though, 65-70% at a couple sports books on Detroit here. Another home game, I think, seeing that potentially the Bucs, a good team that got by the Eagles, but maybe not necessarily in the Lions class. And we've seen that reflected in the point spread as well. So I think probably another one we'll continue to see the public backing the Lions. And, hopefully they get to the championship game, which would be their first one since 1991. That was, they got their first playoff win, also since 1991 last weekend.
Last one features the tightest spread with the Bills, 2.5-point home faves now against the Chiefs. The Chiefs' first road playoff game in the Patrick Mahomes era. I suspect this one is the closest to a 50-50 split of the 4 games this weekend.
This is slightly more bets on the Bills, so 55-60% at sportsbooks. The money also shaded a little bit towards the Bills. This has been Bills -2.5, Bills -3. Did see some sharp money when it got to -3 with respected bettors taking the Chiefs +3 at that number. Patrick Mahomes, shockingly, has only been an underdog 10 times in his career, 7-3 straight up, and 8-1-1 against the number. So obviously, respected bettors getting that field goal. They like that. The public right now still backing the Bills slightly. We'll see what that comes to as we get towards the weekend. Bills have a lot of injuries, though, starting to add up on that defense. I think that's one thing as well that some respected bettors are looking at.
Last thing, talk to me about props this week and anything jumping out in terms of anytime touchdown markets or anything like that.
So some of the kind of common people you would expect, I think it's always interesting to see the price on Christian McCaffrey. He's over minus 300, close to minus 350 for an anytime touchdown. That's the most bet anytime touchdown, as you would expect at several sports books. Also, Aaron Jones, Isaiah Pacheco, Gus Edwards, and Josh Allen. A couple of the player props as well that the public has loaded up on. Devin Singletary under receiving yards. That's at 16.5. Trey Palmer on the Bucks, receiving yards under 20.5. Remember, he had that one big touchdown against the Eagles. And CJ Stroud and Jordan Love passing touchdowns, both over 1.5. Again, public just saw them dominate two potentially strong defenses. Only have to throw 2 passing touchdowns, even though those are juiced a little bit. Looking like the public is backing that right now. And the CJ Stroud, I should say, plus 150 for over 1.5. The Jordan Love minus 120. So getting a little more value on Stroud, obviously against a tough Ravens defense.
Ben's been with us throughout the season and provides tons of more insight on X. So make sure you give him a follow at BFox22. Ben, thanks for joining me. Have a great weekend.